In December 1775, Dr. Thomas Taylor of Savannah wrote that 2/3 of Georgians supported the crown, but without protection, they know it is a vain to oppose the current. One loyalist had even been forced to live in the swamp, having lost most of his property and possessions. On a personal level, Wright had the foresight to have all of his lands and properties appraised because he anticipated the storm. Since he had not the smallest doubt that Britain would prevail, he wanted to be able to prove the value when the rebellion should be quelled. Just a few days later, the rebels erected a new Liberty Pole in the middle of Johnson Square in Savannah. A much more tangible and overt oppression awaited Wright when he learned the lengths to which the rebels would go to exercise their tyranny. Having received a promise of support and aid from the Continental Congress, Georgia's radicals determined to press forward and take full control of the province. The Rebel Council of Safety appointed Samuel Elbert, Edward Telfair, and Joseph Joe Habersham to secure war material. The men had been authorized to purchase 400 stands of arms, 20,000 pounds of gunpowder, and 60,000 pounds of lead and shot. A few days later, on 7 January, the Council of Safety discussed a report that 2 British warships were en route to Georgia. The rebels suspected that the British intended to either purchase or plunder for provisions. Thus, fearing for the public safety, the council issued orders to raise its own militia. In the meantime, ships in the harbor were forbidden from sailing for fear they would be captured and looted by the British. Moreover, royal officials were forbidden from going without the limits of Savannah. Lastly, all houses of all overseers and Negroes would be immediately searched, and weapons and ammunition should be confiscated except 1 gun and 13 cartridges for each overseer. With British ships seemingly hovering on the horizon, the Council of Safety augmented its security preparations by ordering the arrest of certain suspected loyalists and submitting a request for reinforcements from South Carolina. On 13 January, the Council received word from its South Carolina compatriots that HMS Tamar had been sighted off Tybee Island, which was located at the mouth of the Savannah River, 12 miles downstream from the city. 3 more warships, along with auxiliary vessels, arrived 5 days later. The news gave Wright hope that Georgia would soon be restored. Rebel leaders had other plans. Joseph Clay and Noble Wimberley Jones and Joseph Habersham, the son of a close friend of Governor Wright, made haste for Tondy's Tavern, a rebel haven just a few blocks from the governor's home at the northwest corner of Broughton and Whitaker Streets. After a fiery discussion, the Council of Safety resolved to irreversibly plunge Britain's youngest colony deep into the maelstrom of rebellion by ordering the arrest of Governor Wright and Governor's Council members John Melrun, Josiah Tatnall, and Anthony Stokes. These men had now been deemed a dangerous threat to the liberty of the people. That night, Rebel Major Joe Habersham, whose recently deceased father had been Wright's closest friend, happily volunteered to apprehend the royal officials. The younger Habersham had been an officer in the provincial militia, but resigned as the imperial crisis began.